Well, there's a lot of stuff you have to pay attention to when you're working with a voice actor, especially as an audio engineer, especially when it comes to what's coming through the microphone. The biggest thing is getting clean recordings. So that basically means no noises, no clothing stuff, no rustles, no blowing into the mic, that kind of stuff. You got to watch out for that pretty much constantly, because if anything's not clean, then you got to get rid of it, or it just doesn't make it to air. Working with people is the biggest challenge because people are inconsistent. You can have guidelines and what you're supposed to look out for, but people are going to do random stuff, and you just got to be able to deal with the chaos of human voice. The whole dubbing business came about as sort of it was almost a fluke kind of thing. I work at another recording studio, and one of the audio engineers there used to work here, and he kind of just said, well, if you want to start working a bit more in the industry with broader aspects of the industry, then maybe check out this one place. They dub animation and that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of fun. So I kind of just called the boss man up, and I said, hey, looking for an opening. Do you think I can come check this place out? And I don't know, I liked the place, I liked the people, and I kind of just started working here, and I started really liking it. All the voice actors and all the people that work here are great. And it's a different part of the audio world, for sure. It was weird. It was really weird. This is a lot more fast-paced. You never get a break in between takes or anything like that. You just line, 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 line. And I found that fascinating because I've never really worked on any audio project that's quite like dubbing animation. I guess on my first day here, I was a bit overwhelmed, and I always felt like I was screwing something up because there's so many just specific things that you got to do in sequence to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So that was definitely a learning curve for me. The most rewarding aspect, I would say, is probably, I don't know, just getting to be a part of something. There's something that I never really put together, is the fact that a lot of people actually watch the shows we work on, and putting out something more accessible and something easier to watch, which I feel like dubbing is a bit easier to watch, and being able to put out something that's actually, nice to watch. And I like the fact that I'm a part of something that people really enjoy, bringing happiness to people's lives, I guess. I would say what makes a voice actor stand out is honestly just the ability to sustain a role, to immerse themselves in the role they are given or the role that they have chosen. It's really all about acting. And if you can act, you can pretty much work in this world till you're too old to talk. There was something that came through a few months ago. I'm not really allowed to talk about it. It was probably about a few months ago. But it was a bit more diverse. There was a lot more acting, and I really got to see voice actors shine. And I would have to say that was my favorite project, just because it required a bit more than knowing the show. It took a bit more than just knowing your lines. It took more depth. It took more knowing your character to a T, and being able to immerse yourself in that and be that. And I liked watching that happen with a lot of the talented people we work with. So that was very cool. I would say that was my favorite. We use a lot of terminology. So we have set terms for things. Messy implies that that there was a bit too much spit in the take. So essentially, if you can hear a lot of that kind of stuff. Thumpy or windy is when one word comes out and hits the microphone and makes a loud, bassy thump. Blowy peas. Basically, if you just hit up too hard and it just comes out as a massive explosion. And there's a few other terms that I'm sure I'm forgetting about, but Usually, if we want to give feedback on how to fix the take, we just use those terms. The defining lines are essentially if it doesn't fit with the animation. If it's unclear, if you can't understand it, of course you got to redo it, because if you're dubbing something, you don't want it to be less understandable than the actual language it was done in. If it just sounds bad, if the acting wasn't good enough, sometimes actors forget to act. They just kind of read the line like they're reading a book. But yeah, redoing lines is, we do at least 3 or 4 takes per line, I would say, and it's pretty standard. A lot of fast moving fingers, a lot of button pushing, a lot of slight edits and movements. It's really just when you're ready to take a take, you get ready, you hit the button, hits record, gets recorded. If it's good, you keep it. Then you trim it, you drag it down to the track, and then yeah, you gotta take, and then you gotta move on to the next line, and it all happens within 5 seconds. The relationship between a director and actor is very symbiotic. Essentially, the actor and the director, they're looking to get to the same goal. They're looking for the same end result, and what they want is to get the best take possible. And sometimes the director-actor relationship is parental in a way, in that it's guiding someone to the right path, and sometimes it's uncomfortable when an actor forgets that they're an actor, not a director, and that the director has to reiterate that they are a director. But usually it's very symbiotic, and the director will guide the voice actor into the perfect spot and almost make them believe that it was their idea. There's a few methods on how you can get an actor to act. The easiest route is line reading, so just saying exactly the line the way that the director wants the line to be said. Another way is explaining the line in detail and adding inflections and different ways of delivering specific words. Another way is just telling an actor to run with it. Just feel the scene, try and immerse yourself. Say what's on the page, but don't read it. Just believe that that's you and say the thing. That's basically it. Oh yeah, for sure. It started with a very small pool when I started working here. We had a pretty set pool of voice actors that we drew from, and I saw the same people all the time. That was about 2 years ago. And I feel like in the last little while, at least the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, there's been a massive upsurge. Like, there's a lot of voice actors here, there's a lot of talent here, and there's a lot of people here that voice act, which I was surprised to start seeing a lot more faces and like a lot of new people. And it feels like we're still meeting new people, and like we're still meeting new voice actors, and we're still getting people in who are talented, they're good, and they're around here. They're in Calgary, and it's crazy. There's a lot of them, and it's really tough to know exactly where all these voice actors came from, because being in Calgary, you don't expect much from the arts at all, and voice acting is an entirely different world than any of the other arts. So thinking that there would be so many voice actors in a town like Calgary is it's almost oxymoronish, but it's very cool. I'm not sure where they came from though. So how the sausage gets made is basically you start with a show, and then you have a script, and then you have a script writer, a script editor, and it all gets put together, and then eventually gets put to picture, which is then time-coded by a time coder. They get all the time codes for every line, for every character. And then the script is given to a director goes through the show, preps it so then they know exactly where everyone's talking at any given point. And then we get a voice actor in, and they do their lines. and then another voice actor comes in, does their line, until eventually everyone's done their lines and the whole show is put together. And then we send it off to an editor, and then the editor goes through it, cleans it up, makes it sound good, balances it, gets it all ready, and then the editor will place in the music, the effects, that kind of stuff, to really complete the show. And then after the editing process, it goes through a mastering process, and then eventually it is released. It's cool. Just I've always liked being behind things, and I've always liked being like the last person on the credit list and that kind of stuff. I've been on a lot of movies and stuff where I'm just like hidden like a little tiny bit, like a tiny name among the other technical workers on the film or the project or anything like that. I don't know. I like being out there, but not actually being out there, just because no one really watches the credits or anything, so no one really knows who is involved. But I like knowing that it's out there. I like knowing that I did it, and I don't really mind that no one knows that it was me behind anything that happened. But it's fun. It's just cool. There's more than one Reddit page entitled Subs Not Dubs. I'll say that much. People tend to really, 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 really hate dubbed animation. Especially hardcore anime fans. They have this conception that the Japanese actors are better than any Canadian or American actors ever could be, which is pretty unfair. I feel like they could be equal. But yeah, massive misconception is the fact that they see us as like, they think that everything that we do can happen in like 15 minutes, basically. It's like, I guess the length of the show, if it's 23 minutes, then we can dub the entire thing in like 25. That's usually the conception that that we're not actually really putting much work into it, that we let things slide, or that we don't really care that much about it. There's a lot of misconception about how much work actually does go into it. They feel a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's the mass majority that feel like we're not doing a good job, but there definitely is kind of a bias out there that doesn't really like dubbed animation. But other than that, yeah, the misconception is basically, yeah, it's that we don't work as hard as we do. The big difference between prelay and ADR. Prelay is basically what Disney does amongst a lot of other people. Basically, you have a show, a script, but you have no animation. So the animation hasn't been done yet. Basically, you get some actors in. They usually act out scenes in groups or in pairs or anything like that. And they act together. They act out the scenes. They're directed very meticulously. And it's a lot harder of a process because after the acting is done, that's when the animation is done to the acting. With ADR, you've already got a finished product. All you need is a new script, and you need actors, and you're taking all of the Japanese, Korean, Chinese, whatever the original language was. You're taking that out. You're taking those voice actors out. You're getting new voice actors in with English or whatever you're dubbing it with. And you've already got the animation, so essentially all of the acting goes into the animation as opposed to the animation going into the acting. I only have a bias towards good recording environments. So recording in an open bedroom with no treatment is, for an audio engineer, basically blasphemy. It's awful because of all the reflections and all of the awful things that come with normal rooms. So getting a good recording in a room like that is next to impossible. If to say a actor were to, or anyone for that matter, were to make a treated room, something that's built properly, that's something that actually works and something that sounds good, then doing it at home is totally cool. It basically makes no difference if it's a good room. So the reason working at a studio and recording everything in the studio is so nice is because it's already treated. It's already meant for recording in. That's its only function. And when you record at home, you have to go through a lot of a lot of renovations, and you have to go through a lot of changes in order to get the same quality. Because it's really about the room that affects the recording. It's not much about anything else. It's mostly the room and the microphone. My favorite breakfast cereal is, it's a mix between Lucky Charms and honeycombs.